Hello, and welcome to this edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Michelle Marino.
And I'm Paul Werlin.
At Arlington Public News, we bring you stories of interest to Arlington and surrounding communities. We bring you highlights from a recent Mugar Property neighborhood meeting. We discuss what the town is doing to address the business environment, and we show you kids and seniors coming together to share their personal stories.
Plus, we tell you about a local choir that brought shared songs and a shared vision with them to Cuba. That and more up next. Please stay with us. The developers of the proposed project on the Mugar property presented their plans to the public. Oak Tree Development met with neighbors of the planned 219-unit housing complex at a meeting on Thursday, May 21st at the Hardy School. Those in attendance voiced concerns that developing 7 of the 17 acres of open land by Route 2 will cause flooding and traffic problems. Oak Tree representatives say they respect the hydrological issues and value an open dialogue. APN attended the spirited neighborhood meeting and brings you this report.
We are uniformly and completely opposed to this development.
Rallying the crowd who came to hear about a proposed development on open land along Route 2, Representative David Rogers said all local state legislators will work to stop it. Oak Tree Development is planning 219 units on 7 of the 17 acres in East Arlington, long owned by the Mugar family.
Bears and squirrels and deer, oh my, if you build, they're gonna die. Bears and squirrels and deer, oh my, if you build, they're gonna die.
Outside the meeting, crowds warning rush hour commuters on Lake Street that with its proposed 300 parking spaces, the project would make managing the heavily traveled road even worse.
When I moved into Lake Street, this was a nice street. This was fine. It was normal traffic for a relatively, busy street. Now it's ridiculous. And I think what's very frustrating is that all you're doing is you're adding more traffic.
A civil engineer hired by Oak Tree estimates 1 car per minute will travel Lake Street during peak commuter hours, with 70% heading to and from Route 2, asserting that won't impact much.
We model the effect of that. How much more delay does that mean? How much more queuing does it mean? Does it change how a signal works or a ramp works? And the answer, and it's documented and will be subject to peer review as well as state level review, many eyes on this, shows that the answer is it will not.
Developers say they will also seek a direct access ramp to Route 2, which has failed in past proposals. Other issues voiced, the effect on already stressed schools like Hardy Elementary. School committee member Bill Hayner, not speaking on behalf of the committee, has serious concerns.
If we just look at the potential of one child out of 1 out of every 5, and there'll be a lot more than that, this school right here behind us will see 40 new children, which is 2 full classes that we don't have. The town of Arlington is exploding with just the residential property that we have right now.
The biggest reason why people don't want the development, though, flooding. According to the Coalition to Save the Mugar Wetlands, all but 1.5 of the 7 acres where a mix of 4-floor apartments and townhomes would sit is in the FEMA floodplain. Oak Tree developers saying their on-the-ground survey is more accurate and shows most of the development will be on uplands. And they would divert frequent flooding from the neighborhood roads.
When that area fills up with water, it'll be headed south towards to Route 2 and the Little River. Majority of the building is on the 5.5 acres of upland above the 100-year floodplain. Any areas that are impacted under the floodplain, the town requires that be mitigated. FEMA requires that to be mitigated. We will mitigate to that and anything else that we can beyond.
I don't think the environmental science backs them up in the slightest. So they're going to make any promise they possibly can in order to do something that benefits them. However, the situation now is already so bad that the idea that they're going to come up with something that's going to improve it by actually paving over wetlands, I don't believe.
The big question in all of this is what can the town of Arlington actually do to stop the proposed housing project along Route 2? With 25% of the units affordable, developers can skirt local zoning bylaws under Chapter 40B. Still, all needs to be vetted, but this fight might be in the people's hands.
And as our previous history here in this town has shown, in terms of fighting development, fighting for improvements in neighborhoods, improving the quality of life for residents here in Arlington, it's when you come to a meeting like this and we stay together, we will win.
Town Selectwoman Diane Mahan is hopeful this latest proposal will end up like the rest by the Mugars throughout the years, dead in the water.
Especially having all the town leaders in the legislative delegation unified that
we're not going to do anything to help you here.
But project developers say the Mugars have owned the land for 50 years, and it's time.
I know they are determined that something will happen with this land. I know that that's something that they haven't been able to work out an alternative with the town, and they're saying, we've waited long enough. The combination of housing with a small footprint, other people would be here because they like the connection to the T and use of the bicycle path. It's a good time.
Brenda Mahoney, Arlington Public News.
In our ongoing series on business in Arlington, we've explored issues facing business owners and the community at large. In part 3 of the series, APN speaks with Arlington's economic development planner, Ted Fields, about how the town plans to address business concerns and work to enhance the business climate.
In this segment on Arlington businesses, Ted Field, Arlington Economic Development Planner, presented a comprehensive economic plan for the town.
Economic development is important. It's always been important to the town. Before it was a bedroom community, it was a farming community with a strong core of industry along Massachusetts Avenue and the Millbrook. You can see that in the Schwab Mill and the several factory properties that are along Mill Street. As it turned into a bedroom community, there was always a strong commercial element along Massachusetts Avenue and Broadway to serve residents. And we are hearing, as part of our ongoing planning processes and our recently wrapped up master plan process, that town residents want to see more shopping opportunities, more commercial service opportunities, more places for them to work in Arlington so they don't have to drive as far. In the past 10, 15 years, the share of Arlington's tax base that's attributable to commercial properties and the taxes paid by commercial properties has started to decline as residential properties become much more valuable. And at the same time, the town's fiscal resources have come under more and more strain as local aid from the state has reduced. Town policymakers feel that if we can increase the value of the commercial tax base, then that can relieve the property tax burden on residential taxpayers and help reduce the need for additional Prop 2.5 overrides in the future. So one of the tenets of our new master plan that has received a lot of support from residents is encouraging commercial properties, if they redevelop, to redevelop in what's called a mixed-use format, where you have commercial uses on the ground floor, and then you have residential uses on upper floors. So you have a base of customers living above the stores, the restaurants, the offices that they patronize or in which they work. And it really helps activate your commercial districts. It gives people, it gives a base of people who live there, who walk around there, who are populating those commercial districts, make them more attractive places to be.
For Arlington Public News, this is Yawa Digboe.
In the continuation of our recent segment on energy use, this week we focus on energy alternatives. News producer and Arlington Recycling Coordinator Charlotte Milan speaks with energy consultant Kevin Rose about the many components of our monthly electric bill. Their goal is to present consumers with alternatives to the traditional electricity supply.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Milan, and I'm here today with Kevin Rose, who is from the energy industry, and Kevin is going to help me figure out what my bill tells me about energy usage and think through about what kinds of energy choices we have as consumers. Thanks for being with us today, Kevin.
Happy to be here, Charlotte.
I have heard neighbors of mine talk about companies that offer to sell them energy directly, but it's confusing how that would work if Eversource is my utility. Are there opportunities to purchase power and still get my Eversource bill?
So there are certain agreements that you can come to with third-party organizations, that is, someone who isn't you or a utility. And they serve a role in the market where they can basically help determine where your energy comes from. They're the content experts, so you don't have to do that digging.
If I decide that I do want to go with a third-party supplier of energy, what would be some of the advantages or disadvantages that I might want to think about?
The advantages of staying as it is it's a known commodity. You sort of know what you're getting. You're going to get your bill. You know it's coming, and you know where it's coming from, and you know where you have to pay to. Now, a third party introduces somebody else into the mix. And like I said, this utility world, it's a changing one, and these third parties are changing with them. So there's a risk there that you might have to reintroduce yourself. You might have to stay apprised of all of these ebbs and flows of the industry. But the benefits, at least one benefit, is the fact that you might have a little bit more knowledge about where your energy is coming from, and with that, a little bit more control.
I have had my Mass Save energy audit a number of times over the years, almost once a year. So I was told that I was maybe helping pay for that with my utility bill. So is that how I'm helping pay for those energy audits?
Yeah, so that's exactly where it's going. So there's energy efficiency initiatives that utilities have in Massachusetts. The best way for the utilities to make sure that they know how much energy they're going to need to produce in the future is to limit how much is being used by the homes and other buildings that are already on the ground. It's called limiting load growth. So one way that the utilities can limit the load growth of homes that are already in existence is by making them more efficient. So there's a couple ways they can do that. They can look to improve the insulation that's in a home. They can look at the mechanical equipment or other appliances in your home and making those more efficient. You could look at replacing new windows. You could look at some basic air sealing, basically stopping up holes and air leaks in your house.
This has been wonderfully informative, and we really appreciate you being here with us today. So thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
On behalf of Kevin Rose, this is Charlotte Milan with Arlington Public News.
The Boston Marathon trial may be over, but it's left much to be discussed. The sentencing phase sparked intense social and political conversation over the death penalty and led to questions regarding the effectiveness of the representation and outcome on both sides. For legal insight into the strategies for both the defense and the prosecution, APN spoke with Isabel Kirshner, a New York criminal defense attorney.
Hi, my name is Jamie Maffio, and we're here today. We're about to conduct a Skype interview with Isabel Kirshner, who is a criminal defense attorney in New York, and we're going to discuss the Boston Marathon trial. We should start by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Isabel Kirshner. I'm a criminal defense lawyer in New York City. I'm a partner in the firm of Clayman and Rosenberg. I, for many years, was on the CJA panel in New York City, which is the court-appointed panel for indigent clients in federal courts. And I was also on what we call the death penalty panel. So fortunately, I never had to defend somebody who was actually charged, was going to be put to death. But in order to be on the death penalty panel, you have to be qualified. Trials are very fluid events, and things happen. And you know, in this case, you had obviously a very notorious case that brought out enormous emotions, not only in Boston, but across the country. And there are the things that happen in the courtroom and things that happen outside the courtroom. And in spite of the judge's strongest, instructions to the jury about that, not to read anything or come to any facts, there's a lot of information out there that jurors are getting. I mean, in this case, one of the things that happened is that the parents of the little boy that were killed basically came out in the middle of the trial and said, we don't want the death penalty here. I'm sure that in spite of the judge's instructions, the jury knows about that. And so you have to be, as in any trial, regardless of whether the death penalty is in play or not, you have to be a little light on your feet and be able to adjust to things that occur. And so I think in this case, the emotions are running so very, very high.
Do you believe this trial will set a good or bad precedent for future trials?
I am not a proponent of the death penalty. I understand that this is I certainly could put this in the category of horrible cases where somebody did a horrible thing. I am not a proponent of the death penalty. I suppose that if they impose the death penalty, it's going to have enormous consequences. And if they don't, it's going to have enormous consequences. But I certainly think that if he is executed, it's going to have consequences. And it's going to take a long time for it to happen.
If you could ask a juror any question, what would it be?
I think I'd ask whether or not they'd be the ones who are willing to, throw the switch. Would they be personally able to take responsibility for a person's life?
Thank you so much. Really, I really appreciate it. On behalf of Isabel Kirshner, this is Jamie Maffio for Arlington Public News.
Need time or have time? You may want to take advantage of the Time Trade Circle. The bank treats your time like currency. You provide a service for someone, and then you get another bank member to help you with a task. APN engaged 2 active members in a conversation about what they do and why they do it.
Let's file this story under the heading, "Sometimes the solutions to challenges we face are right in front of us." And if the challenges we're grappling with are rising bills and shrinking incomes, or how we might carve out time to do the important work of community building amidst schedules already filled to overflowing, one possible answer is the work of the Time Trade Circle. Active in the Arlington area since 2005, its out-of-the-box approach to economics has nevertheless gone unnoticed by some. To help me correct that oversight and shed some light on the Time Trade Circle are 2 active members. Welcome both.
Thanks Peter. Thanks for having us.
Probably the place we best start is give people who aren't familiar with the Time Trade Circle a sense of what it is.
Well, if I do some act of service for you, I mow your lawn and it takes me 1 hour, I get to bank 1 hour, and then I can use that hour for anything. There's lists of people there who are offering other things. I can say, oh, I need a ride to the airport. I could use it for something like that. Every person who's part of it offers services. 1 hour is worth 1 hour, no matter who puts it in, and then you accumulate, instead of money, you accumulate hours that you can spend.
Please give viewers a sense of what would they find upon becoming members were services that they could conceivably receive from other members. What would they find, and how could they be helped?
There's as many possibilities for services as your imagination can come up with. So there's from the very practical and mundane things like giving rides or cooking food or helping somebody walk their dog or gardening, so household activities. And then there's the kind of esoteric, like teaching somebody how to make their own yogurt. One of the most interesting trades that I ever did was somebody who was trying out their stand-up comedy routine, and they wanted an audience. So I got to go and sit and be an audience, and she was actually really excellent, so it was very fun, a fun trade. But really, it's any sort of service. Often it's teaching somebody how to do something, so empowering them to get the skills to speak another language or get ongoing tutoring.
You have some skills you could teach others, perhaps a service you could provide. And maybe you have some work that needs doing around the house, just once or on an ongoing basis. But you'd like to save your money. The Time Trade Circle might just be the answer you've been looking for, and then some. For Ann Ellinger and Lynn Rosenbaum, I'm Peter Bermudez for Arlington Public News.
APN recently attended an intergenerational storytelling project at the Council on Aging. The project's goal is to connect kids and seniors. The participants shared their personal stories with the help of a professional storyteller.
I'm Erin Dixon here at the Arlington Senior Center, where a group of third graders in Mrs. Doherty's elementary school class met with a group of seniors to share their stories.
I contacted the Senior Center and said that I was offering this program. It's a new program for me. This is the second time I've done this program, but I loved what happened in doing this program.
Intergenerational programs is something we're really working on here at the Council on Aging. So it was very exciting to have somebody come in and sing and dance and bring the two groups together. It really was special.
The seniors that are sitting here, they have lives full of stories. Why couldn't we have the seniors tell stories to the kids? And that was the birth of this. We did that the next year, and this was the second incarnation of that. I'm hoping to be able to, create.
Those are great kids.
to come up with the questions that they asked. I don't think I would have come up with one or two of those questions when I was in third grade.
I like them all. They taught me something that I would never think of. But I did like the stories about the dogs because I have a pet at home.
Today was magical. I mean, it was like hearing all the stories from the people we had met with on Tuesday and watching what questions. I thought the kids asked great questions, and they seemed very engaged, and that was wonderful.
Well, you don't really think that seniors would have the best stories, but then you realize when you actually listen to them and you really pay attention that they have amazing stories.
They don't know very many elderly people or older people, and it gives them a sense of, yeah, I can identify with this. We all have little experiences like that, and if you don't want them to die with you, you want to be able to share something like this. It's an experience, human experience, and memories are good to share because it gives people a little depth and understanding.
Their stories were very interesting. Like they made you think about how you would do this, and it was very like the train story. It was very exciting, and you don't get to see those kinds of steam engines anymore.
I was just asking some of the kids what their favorite story was, and they just had, answers right away, which shows me they really were into it. And I really think for the seniors, it's so important for them to keep contact with younger generations, and this is such a good way to do that.
They're inspiring, and I hope they continue. If they find educational resources that won't deaden their curiosity.
This kind of work, I think the exchange is very rich. I think it helps young people see seniors as people who have lives like them. I think it helps them see they are the heroes of their own lives. I think seniors get a chance to share their life, and when we share our life, it's lovely. You're open, you feel full of life. One of the participants said, I felt so amazingly alive after that workshop, and she told her story with that kind of spirit.
Sharing a new song is a local choir that celebrates the human spirit through music. I am a member of the chorus and prepared this report in the lead up to our recent trip to Cuba for a cultural and musical exchange. I just joined Sharing a New Song in September. This is my first season with Sans, and this will be my first trip. As soon as I heard the word Cuba, I lit up because I've always wanted to go. Of course, music is a strong interest of mine, and I understand that that's a huge part of the culture.
The travel portion of it was very exciting to us because we haven't, traveled, especially in a country, like Cuba. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a very nice group of people. A lot of different kind of music, which is the classical and the different world music and some jazz now we're singing, and so it's a lot of fun.
I'm an architect, and one of the things that I really want to see is the architecture in Havana. I know certain towns have been declared World Heritage Sites because of the old colonial architecture from the days of the Spanish, and I definitely want to see that.
I certainly want to hear from them what their lives are like now, but also what their expectations are now that things are beginning to change between the United States and Cuba, and things are beginning to open up there. I'd really love to hear from them how they think their own lives are going to change or not.
The mission of this group is so special when you think about what we're really focusing on, which is promoting friendship between countries that we've had challenges with in the United States over the years through music.
I think Sans is the kind of group that they do like to foster connections. They keep coming back to the different countries as a rotation. Sans has been to Cuba a number of times. They've been to South Africa a number of times. And so whenever they go to a country, there's always residual that people that they've met there before, and they have these contacts and so forth, and they like to support people if they do come here.
It's not about two races or one race. It's about everyone being accepted, everyone being part of our society. And so that was an amazing experience. We still have a lot of work to do. There are a lot of attitudes out there that we still need to work on. And we need to be willing to look at ourselves and the role that we each play And that's what will make a difference, making connections across some of these differences.
It's perhaps a cliche, but it's true. Music is the international language. It really is. And you can cross many, many cultural divides through the bridge of music. Music is the bond. Music is the language. We may not speak the same language, but we can sing together. Each country and each culture has its own unique musical heritage, and to be able to learn about that and to bring what we have about our musical heritage is a way to bridge divides, and that opens up all sorts of doors and all sorts of conversations, I think, from there.
Okay, Paul, now that you're back, I'd love to hear more about this experience. What was the best part of the trip?
I would say the best part of the trip was getting to know the Cuban people a little bit. Cubans are not our enemies, they are our friends. That became abundantly clear when I was there. The people were warm and friendly, and they were very open to us. And I'm already thinking that I want to go back someday.
Wow, what an incredible experience.
It really was.
Arlington held its biannual Community Collection Day on Saturday, May 9th. Julia Bloom was there to show us around.
I attended the Community Collection Day, a biannual Arlington recycling event. I spoke to some of the volunteers there about how this program benefits the town.
What is Community Collection Day?
Well, Community Collection Day is when the town collects various items that some of you could put in your trash, but we would prefer that you not. And it can help the town because a lot of this can be recycled. And often if the items we're collecting today is put in the trash, then they don't get recycled.
So what are you collecting here today?
Okay, in the donations area, we're collecting building supplies, clothing, books, children's toys, household items. The Health and Human Services are here collecting sharps, and the Save group from the Arlington High School are collecting returnable bottles.
I really like going green. I've always liked the kind of recycling kind of thing, and always like, helping out and with other people and always working with other people. So I thought this would be a great way to do it.
As co-chair of Sustainable Arlington, I am convinced that we should not throw out anything that we don't have to throw out, so that reusing all of the things that are collected on Community Collection Day is a wonderful idea.
For Arlington Public News, this is Julia Bloom.
Up next, we bring you highlights of some of the summer activities you and your family can look forward to in and around Arlington.
The Arlington Farmers Market is back. Starting June 10th, you will once again be able to check out local vendors in Arlington Center every Wednesday from 2 to 6:30 p.m. With offerings ranging from farm fresh produce and meats to wines, jams, and fresh bread, you'll never be bored or hungry strolling by the stands. Hope to see you there. Get ready for that summer heat. The Arlington Rec Department is thrilled to announce that Reservoir Beach will be back in business starting June 15th. Not only is the beach a great place to cool off, but Fun Thursdays and Tuesday Night Concert Series will be starting up in July. Also offered by the Arlington Department of Recreation, be sure to check out Spy Pond Canoe and Kayak Rentals. Running from 12 to 6 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays starting in mid-June, this is a great way to spend the afternoon on the pond. The rental fees are $10 an hour for a single kayak, $15 an hour for a tandem double, and $15 an hour for a canoe. And finally, an event for our furry friends. Be sure to check out the Arlington Rec Department's Dog Rave. Bring your pooch to the Ed Burns Arena on July 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. to rave and woof it up with other canine pals, participating in events like whoopie pie eating contests and glow-in-the-dark dance parties. Buy your tickets online now at arlingtonrec.com for $5 or pay $10 at the door. Be sure to check in with Arlington Public News for more Arlington summer activities.
That last segment had me at whoopie pie eating contest. I'm there for that, hands down.
I think I'll pass on that, but with the winter that we've had, I think most of us, if not all of us, are really looking forward to all that summer has to offer.
Yes, absolutely. Arlington Public News is a production of Arlington Community Media and functions as a gateway for local participation in issues and events of interest to the community.
Check out our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv and like us on Facebook. Please join us next time for another edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Paul Werlin.
And I'm Michelle Marino. See you next time.